Well, here's what we got going on today. Hopefully you've already taken your homework quiz, and hopefully you did extremely well on that. I'll get those back to you next time. I will show you what your answers to number 5, 6, 7, and 8 should have looked like. And what I need to cover with you today, even though I'm not there, it's very, very similar to the exact same thing what we did last time. Finding root solutions and x-intercepts of graphs. The big thing today, though, is I need you to realize that these are all the same thing. And really, overall, it's just one baby step compared to what we did last time. So here's what I got here. I have posted this video. You can get to it if you go to the Hayes High website, staff, and click on My Mugshot. I've posted this video. I've called it Chapter 4, Section 4.2. Then you could check your video there. So there's number 5 and number 6. There's number 7 and number 8. But I'll keep the video going just because I know it'll get kind of boring. If I go through it too fast for you, you're welcome to, after we go over this and you get your assignment sheet, you can go into the website and rewatch the video as long as you got some headphones. So here goes. I got a couple of slides in there in case you had some questions, but since I'm not there, that's not going to happen. But finding root solutions or x-intercepts. I will show you what they are here in just a heartbeat. But what does that mean? It means, where does my graph cross the x-axis? That's all that really matters. It's the exact same that we did last time, but we're just going to find the x-intercepts. So let me get some ink here, I hope. So this thing quits switching around. So here's what we got. Here's what I've done for you so far. I've just got a graph for you. Here's what's meant by the x-intercepts. Pretend that we went ahead and graphed this graph. I used the opposite of b over 2a to get the x-coordinate of the vertex, and I graphed it for you. But here's what I'm going to ask you to find today. Where does this parabola cross the x-axis? Well, it crosses the x-axis, that's the x-axis. It crosses right there, and it crosses right there. Those are called my roots, solutions, and x-intercepts. So it kind of looks tedious for a second, but I just want to drill it in your head. The roots are, I'm going to put these in this cool parenthesis, the roots are -3 and 6, because that's where I cross the x-axis. If the directions would have said, what are the solutions? They are -3 and 6, because that's where I cross the x-axis. If it would have said, what's the x-intercepts? I'm hoping you get the point on this one. It's -3, 6. Roots, solutions, and intercepts are all the same thing. So if I change the word on you, don't panic. So look at your first example. We're going to graph these, and then we're going to estimate or tell where it crosses the x-axis. So here's what I'm going to do. Let me get some ink. I need that main x value just like we did last time. So in this case, a is 1. There is no b value, though. But there is a c value, but I don't need that right now. So in this case, I'm going to go the opposite of b, which is 0 over 2 times a. So my main x value is 0. That means I'm going to ask you to use a 1 and a 2, and a -1 and a -2. To speed things up, guys, and not pause on the video, I went ahead and done these points for us. I kind of ran them through my calculator in my head. So when I ran -2 through there, I got a 0, a -3, a -4, a -3, and a 0. Be really careful when you graph, because we're trying to figure out where it crosses this axis. So here's -2, 0. Here's -1, -3. Here's 0, -4. Here's 1, -3. And there's 2, 0. Here's my parabola. Arrows on the end to show the world that it goes on forever. Now the root/solutions, it's simply, where does this thing cross the x-axis? Well, it looks like it crosses right there at -2, and it looks like it crosses right there at +2. So I'll say that the roots are solutions, cool parenthesis, brace, -2, comma 2, cool parenthesis. And you could switch these. Traditionally I try to put the lower number on the left, but you don't have to. So -2, 2, there's the roots. I'm all done with number 1. Here's my number 2. Be careful on this one. In this case, my A happens to be 1, and my B happens to be -1. Well, watch what happens when I do the opposite of B over 2A. The opposite of -1 is 1 over 2 times 1 is 2. So my main x value is 1/2 or 0.5. Whatever you like to use there between 1/2 and 0.5. Hey, we're okay using a decimal, and I'll show you why. Well, the next main number bigger than a 1/2 is a 1. I don't want to use decimals more than I have to. So I'm going to use a 1 and a 2. And the next main integer less than a 1/2 is a 0 and a -1. Those will be the numbers that I'm going to try to use. So I'm going to assume that since we did these last time, you can use your calculator and go parenthesis -1 squared minus parenthesis -1 minus 6. And when I did that, guys, I got -4. And then I also got -6. And then I got -6.25. And I got -6. And I got -4. Hey, don't panic because there's a decimal there. I'm going to go down a little bit less than 6.5, or around 6.5. So when I go plot this, I've got -1, -4. I've got 0, -6. I've got a 1/2, which is between 0 and 1. And then I got a 1, -6. And then I got a 2, -4. Okay. Hey, I'm going to cheat on this one a little bit. This isn't a very good graph. When I graph this, I'd like to have some points up here also so that I can be a little more accurate on my graph. Because if I just kind of wing it and do this, I may be accurate or I may not. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick a couple more points. The next number after a 2 is a 3. And the next number that would have been less than a -1 is a -2. So when I ran those through, I got 2 more numbers. I got zeros. So that tells me at 3, 0 and -2, 0 were 2 more points. When you graph these, you kind of want some numbers low and some numbers high so that when you sketch your graph, we can be pretty accurate. And then once again, the roots are solutions. It crosses right there at -2. I knew that because I got a 0 for the y, and it crossed right there at 3, and I knew that because of those zeros. I want to see these zeros down here because that's my answer. So here's my roots, solutions, x-intercepts, -2 and 3 in this case. If you didn't do these extra points, you would have sketched your graph, and hopefully you would have came really close to my 2 answers. So, kind of depends. If you don't have enough graph, make it more. Number 3 is going to be just like this one. So here's my number 3. Once again, in this case, my A value is 1. My B value is -3. When I do my opposite of B over 2A, here's what I got. The opposite of B is +3. 2 times 1 is 2. So I'm going to get 1.5. Well, the next number greater than 1.5, I'm going to use a 2 and a 3. And the next number smaller than 1.5, I'm going to use a 1 and a 0. Okay. Hey, then what did I do? I grabbed my calculator and I went to work on this. So when I ran 0 through there, I got -4. When I ran 1 through there, I got -6. When I ran 1.5 through there, I got -6.25. And when I ran 2 through there, I got -6 and -4. If you have all positives or all negatives here, we might have to do some more points. I'm going to go ahead and plot these and see. I'm going to plot 0, -4, 1, -6, 1 1/2, 6 1/4, so about right in there, 2, -6, and then 3, -4. Since that's not a lot, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more points. You'll kind of know if you need to do more than points. If all your points are down here, that means when some of you guys would have drawn your parabola, some of you would have did this. Some of you might have did this. We're just not real accurate. So we want to become more accurate. So I'm going to also pick a 4 and a -1. I picked the next number that I would have got going up, and I'll pick the next number I would have got when I was going down. And when I did that, this was kind of lucky again. When I ran 4 through there, I got a 0. And when I ran -1 through there, I got a 0. What did that tell me? That told me these guys are my answers. So here's 4, 0, and -1, 0. Now when I sketch my parabola, I'm going to be pretty accurate. And when I come down here, I know my answers are going to be when x is -1 and x is 4. Okay? If you would have just drew your parabola, one, you wouldn't have been as accurate, but give me the estimate on where they hit. We can be a little off today. Not a ton, but a little bit. So here's my number 4. In this case, A is -1, B is -4. So let me clean up my -4. Don't want Hector to make fun of me. Hey, so now the opposite of B is 4. Over 2 times A is -2. Well, 4 divided by -2 is -2. That means I'm going to pick -1 and 0, -3, and -4. Now remember, guys, when you run this through your calculator, you'll have to do this. All depends on which calculator you got, but you're going to go -1 times, and then we'll go parenthesis, -4 squared minus 4 times -4 plus 1. And when I did that, I got a 1. And then on this one, I got a 4, and then a 5, and then a 4, and then a 1. I'm hoping the calculator part's the easy parts because it's the exact same thing that we did last time. So here goes these graphs. I got -4, 1. Looks like right there. I've got -3, 4. I got -2, 5. I got -1, 4. And I got 0, 1. Okay. Hey, that's not bad. But watch what happens when I graph this. When I graph this, it doesn't hit at real great places. I know my answer is not 4 because there is that, or -4, and I know it's not 0 because it's above it. So since it went between a couple of numbers, here's what I'm going to do. For my roots, I'm going to put braces. It looks like this answer is between -5 and -4. So I'm going to put between -5 and -4, semicolon, colon. And then my other answer looks like it's between 0 and 1. So for my other one, I'm going to put between 0 and 1. Okay? I know that looks weird. We haven't done anything like that this year. But since it didn't hit at a nice dot, I know it wasn't a nice number. So I knew it wasn't 1 because that would kind of flare out. So that's what it's going to look like there. Since it went between a couple of numbers, that's what I've got. Okay? So hopefully you've kind of got it going so far. What I'm going to do on the back one, guys, is I'm going to do what we did last time and today's. I'm going to give you everything that we can kind of do with it. So keep up with me on number 5. So I'm going to pick the pace up because I noticed my video's been about 15 minutes. I don't want it to be more than 30. So when I go get my main value, I'm going to go -8 over 2, because A is 1, B is 8. So I'm going to get a -4, a -3, a -2, and I'm going to use -5 and -6. When I ran those numbers through, I had -5, -8, -9, -8, and -5. And then while I'm here, I'm hoping Wendy Zimmerman got these fixed for us. We're supposed to have a +7 on this problem. Originally, I had an x squared plus 8x and nothing, but my graph was off, so yours should say +7. If it doesn't, please add that in real fast. So it should say a +7. Now when I go to graph these, here's -6, -5, -5, -8, -4, -9, -3, -8, -2, 5. Okay. Hey, I'm going to add in one more point. The y-intercept happens when x is 0. Well, when x is 0, I'm going to get 7. So I'm going to add in 0, 7. And because of my line of symmetry, which is right through there, there's a point 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the right. So there's another point right there. So I just used my y-intercept. If you didn't want to do that, guys, since all my points were down there, I could have came in and picked -1, the next number after the -2, and a -7. When I did that, I got 0 and a 0. So first off, here's my parabola. All of these items are the exact same thing we did. So my vertex is going to be -4, -9. My axis of symmetry is x equal -4. My domain is -infinity to infinity. My range, y is greater than or equal to -9. This thing is a minimum. Those are all that we did last time. The roots or solutions is the new things. It looks like it crosses at, ooh, when I look right there, there's my answers. But I would have took this. If you would have looked at my graph, I kind of missed my dot a little bit. If you thought it was between -2 and -1, you could have wrote that. And if you thought it was between -6 and -7, I would have tucked that. But in this case, I know my real answers are -1 and -7 because of the zeros right there. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and do number 6, and then I'll kind of pick the pace up and do 7, maybe 8. So here's number 6. When I did my main point, I got -2. The opposite of B over 2 times A was -2. So that means I also use -1 and a 0, and a -3 and a -4. My y values then happen to be -5, -8, -9, -8, and -5. When I graph it, -4, -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, -8, -2, -9, -1, -8, and 0, -5. I'm going to let you pick this one. If you think you can draw a real good graph at this point, go right ahead. If you don't, I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick the next number. So it looks like I would have picked a 1. And the next number going this way would have been a -5. Well, once again, in this case, when I ran 1 through here, I got a 0 and a 0. So that tells me those are my answers. So my roots and solutions happen to be at -5 and 1. At 1 and -5. So there's what this parabola would have looked like. Let me quickly fill in this other items. My vertex, -2, -9. Axis of symmetry, x equal -2. Domain, -infinity to infinity. Range, y is greater than or equal to, because it's opening up, -9. My y-intercept, 0. My c value, -5. And this thing's a minimum. Okay. So that's what I've got so far. And hang with me. It's been 20 minutes so far. I got a little timer down there. Hang with me. I got 2 more examples. I'm going to get you rolling on your assignment. So here's my number 7 and number 8. Hey, don't be scared because there's a fraction in there. Big deal. In this case, A is -0.5 and B is 0.5. So I'm going to go the opposite of B, which is -0.5 over 2 times -0.5, which would be -1. So 0.5 divided by 1 is going to be 0.5. So there's my main x value. The x value of my vertex is at 0.5. Then I'm going to ask you to also use a 1 and a 2 and a 0 and a -1. When I ran these numbers through for you, when I ran a -1 through there, I got a 5, and then I got a 6, and then I got a 6.125. Let me write that down here for you. I had a 6.125, and then I had a 6 and a 5. So those are the numbers that I got on this one. When I go to graph this in, I've got -1.5. I've got 0.6. I've got 1/2, which of course is between 0 and 1, and just a little bit above 6. And then at 1, I got 6. And at 2, I got 5. Okay. Hey, this is kind of a bad one again, guys. All the points are way up here close together. So let me get rid of some stuff here real fast. And then let me pick 2 more points again. So I'm going to go ahead and pick 3, because that's the next number after a 2, and a -2. Hey, a lot of times when I did that, I would get 0, 0. That didn't happen in this case. I got a 3 and a 3. So let me plot those. So I got 3, 3, and I got -2, 3. Okay. Hey, so here goes. I'm going to go ahead and estimate my graph. I think my graph is going to look like that. I may not be perfect, but I'm going to be pretty darn close. I'm going to give you some leeway on how you name these. Like when I pick on my x-intercepts, man, it looks like -3. And it looks like 4. So I'll give you some leeway there. If you wanted to be a little more exact, if you wanted to say, no, it doesn't, Mr. Harris, it looks like between 3 and 4, well, then you would have just wrote between 3 and 4. Okay? I'll take that. Hey, I'm not going to fill in this part because I got all the faith in the world that you can fill that out. Let me get my last one filled in, and then I'll get you working on your assignment. So here goes, x squared minus 6x plus 11. When I did my opposite of b over 2a, I had +6 over 2, which was 3. Then I had a 4 and a 5 and a 2 and a 1. Okay. This one's kind of an easy one calculator-wise. When I ran this through, I had a 6, a 3, a 2, a 3, and a 6. Okay. Hey, this one's just going to be a little bit different. Watch what happens when I go plot all these. I've got 1, 6. I've got 2, 3. I've got my vertex of 3, 2. I've got 4, 3. And I got 5, 6. Watch what happens when I graph this, though. It never touches the x-axis. It never, ever touches this x-axis. That means that there's no solutions to this graph. So when I come down here, I'm going to put either no solutions or you could have put the empty set. Now I can fill in the rest of the stuff though. My vertex is still 3, 2. That makes my axis of symmetry x equal this x value of 3. Makes my domain negative infinity to infinity. It makes my range y greater than or equal to 2. Makes my y-intercept, when I let x be 0, go up here and get that c value, 11. And it's a minimum. So it did not cross the x-axis, so there's no solution. Okay? So that's our day 2 of our parabolas. So take your time and graph them. You should have quite a bit of time to work. This video looks like it's going to take about 27 minutes. I figured your homework quiz might have took you 10 minutes. You should have about 40 minutes to get a great jump on the assignment. Work together, plug the numbers in, and I will see you next class. Take care.